especially to us who are supposed to be the important stakeholders in football. Because remember, I've said our home is just football, and SAFA has to be our home. So after carefully studying the statutes, because a lot of people have this mentality that footballers are illiterate, they've not gone to school. Just for their information, I also studied in the University of Lesotho, National University of Lesotho. I studied public administration and political science, amongst others. So one of the courses there would be sociology, the study of how society lives, and also it will be psychology, the study of how minds interact. So with that little background, one was aware that there's something that is not right at SAFA, especially given that constitution. And that constitution allows for dictatorship. So now the recent events where maybe footballers were seen for the first time in the history of SAFA, toy-toying, if I may call it that way. I know we blacks will understand the word toy-toying. Toy-toying is just for you to show that you are not happy. You know, I remember Mama Ria, and I will explain why I'm saying Mama Ria Daba, who was also one of the hopefuls to lead this organization. She even, when the poor woman went to court, approached the South African courts to say, please, let us wait a little bit about these elections, because there are so many irregularities, especially leading to the elections. SAFA has regions. So from those regions comes delegates that are going to vote for the leadership of SAFA. So there was a lot of irregularities in the regions that happened prior to the elections of SAFA. And even a blind man could see that these irregularities are meant to make sure that the status quo is maintained. And the status quo, this illegal and injustice running of football by the leaders of SAFA. We were not saying as footballers we don't want elections. Come on, this is a democratic country. There has to be elections. But we were saying what happened prior to the elections will hinder development, will hinder justice in as far as football is concerned, you see. But then we were disappointed by the courts of law, who said the application by Mama Ria is not urgent. Therefore, we also said the holding of the Congress cannot be urgent. What was urgent was a sports indaba. Even sports indaba, it should be a space. I know the government has made allocation of 2 million rands, if I'm not mistaken by the figure. But the government, through the Ministry of Sports, made some allocation that there must be a soccer indaba where we sit and discuss and maybe come up with plans how do we put our football back on the map. Schools football is dead, it's not a secret, there's no development whatsoever. So we were concerned as footballers that, okay, let that happen. But then some people there at SAFA who were comfortable about the current situation of football not going anywhere, made sure that we don't get that chance. But then, it is very much painful. But we are back to the courts. Mama Ria is back to the courts. Hopefully justice will be done. So we just want the people to know that footballers are not crazy. It's the first time you see former footballers taking to the streets, on radios. There were interviews just trying to talk to the conscience of the nation that hey bantu kuninkinga la SAFA, you see. But because you wouldn't know if you are not inside. But fortunately, we were privy to the information of what was happening. We interviewed people who were sitting there at SAFA, and they've said to us, hey, there's a dictator in there. And that cannot happen in the democracy, in the 27, 28 years of democracy. We cannot have another dictator here in the country. This is a democratic country. Everybody has a right to air her views. Everybody has a right to contribute, especially in the game that is ours. Maybe let me just pause there a bit.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Reading upon, doing like some follow-ups and whatnot, we came across an article that said that the leadership at SAFA House maybe this is Danny Jordan's last term. I think that's what he allegedly said. You know what? After this term, I'm leaving. Is it more of the current leadership? Or do you dually think that even after after Danny Jordan has left, you still think that Ria is the person, or solely Mothabeng can come in, or is it solely about the current leadership, or is it who you want to be in charge who will implement change?
We have said in most of the interviews that we have done that it is not about Mama Ria, but it's about the system, football. maybe if I may go back a little bit, during the time when our leaders were fighting for liberation, it was not about a certain person, but it was just about liberation.
Of course.
So now we are saying SAFA is rotten to the core. The statute that governs SAFA, the constitution, it's rotten. And in our democracy, we cannot have that constitution. That is why we wanted a sports indaba, because in a sports indaba, it's just like political parties going to the Congress before elections. So in that Congress, usually what happens, they will discuss policies that govern the organization. So our sports indaba, we wanted to discuss the policies. We wanted to discuss the constitution on its own. But then it is clear that there are people who are comfortable in the status quo who did not want that to happen. So they were told that these are our intentions. He did mention that no, it is not about me. After the sports indaba, if the football people, another better person in the